Good morning. So I'd like to go over a concept that is really important for a lot of people to grasp, especially when they have, legal troubles and they're fighting for their rights and they're trying to, you know, um, basically defend themselves. Okay. I had someone come to me, a student, a client, if you will, come to me the other day, and he said, I finally get it. After we've been working together almost a year. Well, we were introduced about a year ago. He came to us, we helped him out and began to help him. And then he went on his own and began to study more. He came back the other day and he goes, I get it. I finally get it. And this is very important. This is why I'm doing this video, because I was like, you're right on, man. You're absolutely right on. That is so true. And I've seen it with other people, including myself. He said, all this time, my ex-wife was pushing my buttons. And when I would go into court and they would come against me, of course, and, you know, uh, they were basically in her corner all this time, I was just so angry and pissed. And I just wanted to, take her out and just, I was so mad and I was angry. And he goes, and that's where I kept messing up. And I said, exactly. That's it. You know, that's so important. This, revelation that he had, because if you go into a situation and you start getting all angry and frustrated and emotional, you're done. You're out. Okay. Those of us that say we're going to fight for our rights, I always say you're fighting the largest war machine on earth. You're not going to win. The way that you win is by being knowledgeable and going in peace. And it's just business. Just treat it like business. And that's what he started saying. He's like, I don't even care now. I don't care if they, sentence me, if they, take this or that from me. He's like, I'm over it. I don't care. It does not even bother me now. And he goes, and actually, I saw that my ex-wife was teaching me how to get to this point. And that is such an awesome level to get to, because you're not a victim. No one is coming after you, no matter how much they're coming after you. It's for you to look at the situation and to assess it and really understand that it's not about me. This is about a situation. So when we're talking about freedom and straw man stuff and court and all of that, it's so much easier if you just look at it as business, because it's all business. Satan is business. Satan does business. Okay. That's what this is all about. Business, business, business. And if you're going to go in there and fight, you're going to lose, because it's not about fighting. When you see an attorney go into court, do they start getting all upset and getting all crazy and emotional? No. Now, they might use some of that in like a trial situation where they're trying to, really rouse up the jury, but they don't get emotional because they don't have any dog in the fight. They're just there to make money. So they're not emotional about it. When you get emotional about a situation, especially in a court situation, that judge is going to look at you and go, you're not ready. You're not responsible enough to be free because you don't know how to handle your own emotions. Granted, the courts are designed to make us emotional. They're designed to play on the emotion of fear and intimidation, and that's what they do. So again, if we go in there without emotion and we're just clean across the board, I'm not emotional. I'm here to do business, and here's how it's going to be, because I have all my business in line. And that's where we get over to doing equity. People say, well, what is equity? What is equity? Equity basically is doing what's right. So when we put our claim on this straw man organization and we separate the titles once again, and we let the legal title stay with the state, and we take the beneficial title, and we have actually a record of interest in that, we now have a claim. It's just business. Now, I recommend that people do, some sort of ecclesiastic thing. Some people call it an ecclesiastic deed poll. They do it that way. I do an asseveration, where I basically say, I have repented. I am done with this commercial world. I'm over it. I'm out of it. My only allegiance is to the creator, to God. I have no allegiance to anybody else. And I'm over this, and God, please release me, right? Forgive me, for I have sinned. I have signed, right? Sinned. So I do that. And from that point forward, I'm separate. I do not have the legal right to operate that organization. Or I should say, I do not have the legal title to deal with that organization and its legalities. That's for the state, because the state created it. They're holding the legal title. So when I have my interest, though, again, I think a lot of people get lost. They think that you just need status, 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 status. I'll say this. I say it all the time to people who've been doing this for years, and even a light bulb goes off in their head when they realize Black's Law 7th Dictionary says that there are 3 departments to civil law. Under the law of status, it says there's 3 departments of civil law: law of status, law of property, law of obligation. And if you look up law of property, it'll say the same thing. If you look up law of obligation, it says the same thing. So if there's 3 departments of civil law, and civil law is the umbrella for which they put the common law and equity together underneath of, then it's important for us to not only change status, but to take care of the property and obligations. That's why I wrote my declaration of status and power of attorney template to take care of all of that. That's a public record. So that's really, really important as a foundation. And it's been important. I mean, people are calling me, almost daily, saying how much they really appreciate this document, what it's done for them when they put it into their case. Or I'm not telling them how to use it or do it. They're doing it all on their own. And they're calling me and saying, man, you wouldn't believe the reaction, or you wouldn't believe what happened. And, the IRS just totally dropped everything. And, I don't get any taxes taken out. And, some people are saying the court flipped out and they didn't know what to do. And, these different scenarios. So it's really, really important, because they understand on the other side what that declaration is saying. And if you go in there and start fighting and arguing all this other crap, all you're doing is admitting that they have some sort of control over you, because they can control your emotions. So if you're letting them control your emotions and not acting in business, you're probably doing yourself a disservice, and your efforts are going to be futile. They really will. And I've seen it. I've seen it throughout the 12 years of people that are going to go in and fight, and they're going to win, right? And, a year later, year and a half, 2 years, 3 years, some people are in battles 4 or 5 years. They're just exhausted, worn out. They've lost everything, and they're still losing. It's not about the fight. It doesn't mean we don't defend ourselves, but it's not about the fight. It's about not getting emotional and trying to burn people at the stake. It's just simply about business, right? So we do the business of the straw man. We take control of that. We wake up and we become responsible. Being free is a responsibility. Self-governing is a responsibility that says, I'm responsible for everything that happens to me. Every bit of victimization that has happened to me is from me. That's my responsibility. It's nobody else's. I'm not a victim because somebody wanted to make me a victim. I'm a victim because I put myself in that position for a reason. And so it's my fault. If you want to get into fault, I don't get really into that either. I just look at it as I put myself in an awesome position to experience this pain so that I could evolve to the next level. And it's not an awesome position at the time, but in hindsight, it becomes one, because I go, oh yeah, look at how I grew from that situation. So I give thanks for that. And I say, I'm thankful for that situation. I'm not a victim. I'm just someone in a circumstance. That's all it is, so that I can evolve and grow. So business is super important. We go into these legal situations, we're just doing business. That's all we're doing, and if we have our business set up right and responsibly, and we know now who we are, and we've separated ourselves from everything, and we know how to do that, you're much better off. That's all I'm saying. From my experience, you're much better off. So don't fight. It's not about the fight. It's about the knowledge. It's about the application of the knowledge. It's about being at peace so that you can, really ascend to the next level of consciousness, which is self-governance. You can't self-govern until you're responsible and you stop blaming everybody for your problems. That's where it comes in, where they recognize. I've had people go into court and they're knowledgeable, but they're fighting. So, when they fight, judges and stuff are like, get them out. You're not ready, get them out. And that pisses you off even more. And, it's just a snowball effect. So we don't need to do that. You go in with knowledge, you speak with clarity, you stand your ground, you're firm, you know what you're talking about, because the other side, let's call it Satan, for lack of a better word. Let's say Satan is always going to try to knock you off and make you think that you do not have the power, right? Just like was talking to Ethan Lucas the other day, or when we were on our live feed, he was talking, and it may have even been before that. I can't remember if it's on the live feed or not, but he had a great point. That's what was happening with Peter when Jesus was walking on the water. Okay, he was walking on what's water? Commerce, right? He's walking on the water, and law of the sea. And Peter comes out of the boat, and he's walking on the water. But then all of a sudden, Satan makes the waters all rough, right? Starts pushing back on Peter, trying to knock him off his horse, trying to knock him off his stance. And he starts sinking, right? Jesus comes over and says, no, you don't have to. You don't have to fear. He lifts him up. And he comes right back on the water, right? So that is really, really important, in my opinion, for anybody that's out there trying to fight. If you stop getting emotional about it, you're going to get a lot further. You don't have to have emotion. So anyhow, I see some of you guys commenting on the side here about victim and stuff, and yeah, that's all good. We know that the state can't be the injured party and all that, but what I'm saying is, if you get upset about that, right, and there's no injured party, and you ask them to provide one, and they don't provide one, and you start getting all upset, they got you. They're like, we got you. It doesn't matter. And it doesn't matter that there's an injured party or not. It's just business. It's just business. When you're doing business, it doesn't matter that there's an injured party. They're not doing business with you. They're doing business with your organization, and you keep stepping up. Oh yeah, I'm the dummy, right? Look at me, I'm the dummy. I'm going to step up for this organization to take all the fall for it. I'm going to take all the responsibility for it. I'm the dummy. Then they're just going to keep, oh, you don't have an injured party, and the Constitution says, and blah, blah, blah. And they're just slamming you because they're like, hello, it's not even you that we're attacking. If you just took control of the trust in the situation, we wouldn't be able to do this to you. But since you keep falling for it and you keep wanting to challenge us on our laws, we're just going to keep smacking you. Smack, smack, smack. But when you have everything already in place and you've previously noticed them, that's called doing equity. And when that equity is done, it's a lot harder for them to pull all this trickery because everything's done. And especially if you go in there and you're not allowing them to joinder you to the organization, to the straw man. They have a real hard time with that. Then you start giving orders. You're the trustee. Who's the trustee? He is or she is, right? The state representative, that's the trustee. Period. And if there's no trustee, we can't proceed. And once you have your documents in line or recorded, it's over because that's the public record. Here, there you go. Rebut that. That's all I got to say. I don't know who you are. I don't know who you are. I don't know who the state is. There's no judge but God. So I don't even know why I'm here. The only reason I showed up is because someone said, hey, there's something going on down at the courthouse. You might want to look at it. Right? I'm not here I wasn't summoned here. And there's ways of handling that anyway. So, again, yeah, that's exactly right. No man makes a complaint, an office does. It's all about office. And if you don't know which office you're holding, you're on the lower end and you're going to get all emotional and you're going to start fighting. It's not about that. If you're holding the right office, which I always take the office of general executor because I'm exonerated from the claim, and you give them the office of trust, the legal title. Hello, they have legal title. You settle it. Oh, look, I got this certificate here that it looks like it was created by the state of, which means you work for the state, so you need to handle this. There you go. There you have the defendant in custody. I'm out of here. I mean, it's a done deal. If you want to assign it to them, I don't particularly do assigns on certificates. I just negotiate it as an instrument and pay them. Fine, give Caesar what Caesar wants. It's paper. Here you go. Here's a payment. How much you want? For value received at site, paid to the order of bearer. How much? $1 million. There you go. Is that enough? You guys good? Take $1 million? Okay, fine. Have a nice day. You just wrote $1 million out of thin air, just like they do. That's why you have the certificates. That's why they're there. I mean, that is your security certificate. And you can negotiate that. Just go to UCC Article 8 and go to Article 8 and read the definitions. Article 8, Section 102. Read the definitions and you will begin to understand how that security certificate functions or how you can function with that security certificate. Now, Article 8 is about investment securities. The birth certificate is not necessarily an investment security. It's a security certificate. So I don't read Article 8 and figure out how I'm going to use the UCC. No, screw that. I'm reading Article 8 because it lays out the equity in the law. Okay, UCC is built on equity. So they're telling you how this actual action works using this instrument in an investment situation. But we're not in an investment situation. But it doesn't matter. It still fits because it's the law. It's not the statute. So if you're going to follow UCC for the statute that it is, then you're going to burn when you mess up on one of the statutory procedures. I look at the UCC as a learning tool. I go, oh, this is how they're doing that. I can see where this fits and that fits. But it's a private relationship. So it's not, I don't have to follow the UCC. I just look at it to see how this thing works. And if you read the definitions, it'll tell you, look up what an entitlement holder is. Look up what a banking intermediary is. If they have an account with my name on the books, my name or the name on the books, they're an intermediary. That's an intermediary. Just look it up, So if you're ever in that situation and it's a court situation, the court is the intermediary. And you can bail that property right over to the, bam, here you go. There's the defendant. I just bailed the property to you because I have a secured interest in the defendant and all its property. So that means just like a UCC 3, right, which is an amendment to a UCC 1, I can cut a chunk of my interest of the living man. I can cut a chunk of my interest off over to the organization or to whomever that I want to pay, right? I can go, here's a chunk of interest. I'm going to pay you out of this interest that I have in this debtor that owes me. So if that debtor owes me everything it possibly owns and could own, all its chattels, all its real and personal property and everything, which is worth millions, I can cut a chunk of that off in interest and give it to you. And now you're paid. That's how UCC 3 works, or how you would use a UCC 3. You would cut a chunk off. So if I have a debtor, okay, and I put a notice of lien, which is a UCC 1, it's just a notice. But if my debtor is liened because of the security agreement, which is the lien, okay, my debtor is now, I am now the owner of all the property, or I have the priority interest in all the property of the debtor because they put that up as collateral. So if I filed a UCC 1, which is just a notice of interest, and I said, hey, I've got interest in this property at the value of $1 million. And then someone came to me and said, hey, you owe me, I don't know, for the water bill, right? And I'll use that example because we did this years ago and the water bill was immediately paid. And I go, okay, well, I'm going to cut you off a chunk of the debtor's interest to pay you with that. So let me assign you X amount of dollars. When this debtor pays me, you will get paid this much. And soon as we did that, I shouldn't say we, my buddy did that, the water was right back on, the bill was paid like that. All he did was fill out his UCC3, cut a chunk off of the UCC1 amount, assigned it over to them, they filed it, and the water was right back on. Okay, so it's about, this illusionary idea of value and how you can move it around, right? And who owes who what. I mean, it's really not that hard. You just have to understand it's, number one, it's all fiction. So, once you understand the business of it, which is why I say go to UCC Article 8, 102, the definitions, because there's a ton of knowledge just in learning those definitions, right, on how this thing works. Once you learn that, you can use it in a business-like manner, and you're not fighting anymore. It's not about the fight. It's about who has the superior interest, who has the priority interest, So, and the only thing that can give it value is you, because you're the only thing with life, right? So all you're doing is you're moving that value around, and you're changing that value from life to death, and you're giving the dead the life. So what you're saying is, I'm going to take this life and I'm going to give it to you because you're dead, and make this thing alive, which brings it to equilibrium and cancels out the charge, cancels out the debt. That's really the simplicity of it. So there's no need to fight when you understand the arrangement. Now, that doesn't mean when you enter a courtroom, they're going to allow you to just speak this freely, right? And they're going to try, like I said, like the Jesus and the Peter scenario, they're going to try to knock you off your stance and your position and make you think that you don't know what you're talking about and that you're crazy and all this stuff. But for me, I like to use the language correctly when I'm speaking it and not be so exposing and, burning them at the stake. I did that years ago and it was wrong. Granted, I got through it unscathed, but I look back and I'm like, well, that was arrogant. So that's wrong, So you don't need to do that. There is no, being angry at these people. They don't know. And the ones that do know, they're just being the gatekeepers and they're testing your knowledge. So you really should be knowledgeable and not go in there with somebody's paper and think it's going to solve your problems, because that's never going to happen. You really have to know what you're doing. And yeah, I mean, there's an agency there. Okay, so you have a choice. You can either say, I have no agency and I don't want to deal with it. They're going to force agency on you at some point. Or you can say, yeah, I am the agent. I'm the general executor. I'm the office of general. Here's my power of attorney. I'm the office of general executor, and I have a right to settle out this estate. And I also have a negotiable instrument called a birth certificate to do that. How much are the charges? Let me just fill this out for you real quick. And that's why when people bring their birth certificates into a courtroom, the court starts freaking out, because they know you have the key right in your hand. You have the key and you're exposing it in front of everybody, and they're going to have to settle out the charges. Once you put that instrument in their custody, right? Now they're the bailee. Just like at birth, you bailed the property over to them. They gave it back to you in an instrument. You're the purchaser. If you read UCC Article 8, right, definitions 102 of a purchaser, you're the purchaser of that security certificate. You bought it. Whether you paid fiat money for it or not, it doesn't matter. You're the purchaser. A purchaser doesn't even mean buying it, actually. There are other scenarios that make you a purchaser. Then you look at entitlement holder. Am I an entitlement holder? Yeah, I'm an entitlement holder, So you have to understand who you are. And then if you're the entitlement holder, now an entitlement holder and an endorser, right? Somebody that endorses the instrument, you can be an agent for the endorser. Once you have that power of attorney and declaration of status, it tells you It tells them, sorry, that you have the right to endorse as an agent. So again, there's no fighting in any of this. This is just business. Affidavit is all you need, and notice. And once you have your public record of facts straight on who's who, what's what, that's why people talk about security agreements and power of attorney and all that stuff. There's a few elements that you have to have in there. I particularly use a declaration of status and cover it all, other than the power of attorney, which is separate. That kind of is it, the declaration of status gets attached to it. And but the declaration of it's I should stop saying declaration of status. It's actually declaration of status, property, and obligation. It's all covered. So I use that and basically go, look, we all know who's who here. Y'all were notified, right? They can't deny receiving a notice. Once someone receives a notice, they have a duty to take notice. That's called equity. That is your equity. Equity is notice. You're doing equity. I gave you notice. When the equities are off, usually the equities aren't in your favor. This is not you. This is the state, right? They got the equities over here, and you haven't offset the equities. And once you balance out the equities and you gave them notice, all of a sudden it starts to go like this. So that is super, super important to understand. Don't fight. It's not about fighting. Just understand it's business. And when you are able to get those equities in your favor, right? You are standing in the position of Jesus, okay? So you're an heir to the kingdom of heaven. Once you declare that, which you should, in my opinion, everybody should. Once that's declared, you're an heir to the kingdom of heaven. This commerce stuff over here cannot be done by you. It has to be done by the office and the trustees. So your office is just saying, hey, the beneficiary needs you to do this because you're the trustee. So you guys need to handle it, because the beneficiary is a child of God and can't play in this game of commerce with you, which is why they gave you the straw man to begin with, because they know in God's realm, none of this applies. So you need an office. You need a vessel, right, to go in commerce. So yeah, it's all about walking on the water. That's it. You're just walking on the water. You're coming out of the depths and the dead, and you're coming to stand on the water. And once you stand on the water, you can use that vehicle for what it was intended for. And in my opinion, that's what they're so scared of you figuring out. But they know. I mean, the cat's out of the bag. These guys know. I mean, it's all over the world. People are figuring it out everywhere. They know. I'm sure they're trying to take measures to combat that, so to speak. But at the end of the day, they can't, because it's equity. That's why equity is there. So anyway, that's it. Don't fight, man. That's my theory. I don't fight anything. And for those of you out there with a ton of testosterone and anger that want to fight, knock yourselves out. Let me know how you make out. Some of you might get a bone thrown to you. That's awesome. Me personally, that's too much stress. I don't want to do any of that. I just like typing up notices and affidavits and telling people what to do. To me, that's what's important. I get to tell you what to do, not the other way around. It's much easier. Just business. Do the business, all right? Be in the chair of the executor, the one who controls, not the one who has the liability to do all of the work. You're not the worker. So, all right, y'all. Everybody have a good day. That's it for not fighting. Please, please, please try to understand, no matter how angry you are in a situation or how much someone's pushing your buttons, it is just about business. And if you can come down to that level and get off, well, actually up to that level, and come out of that low level of anger for this person, this thing, or whatever, you will be so much better off in your pursuits. Absolutely 100%. It is just business. There's nobody to burn at the stake. These people were created by the same God that created you. So they're here for a reason, and they're here to test you. And when you get angry and you fight, you're failing the test. So peace, everybody. Don't fail the test. I know you can do it. I know you're better than that. So we'll see you all on the next one whenever I decide to jump on here and do a next one. Later, y'all.